truly is.
Brown drives, way up on the glass.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Garnett knocked away.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. We are in the depths of a very quiet August. A slight reprieve coming soon with the World Cup just around the corner. But right now, we are living the quietest part of the off-season. Not here, though, on First to the Floor. We've cooked up some spicy off-season topics for you. And joining us for all of that and more, it's Jake Eisenberg. Jake, how you doing, sir?
Mate, doing great. For off-season, it feels like we have plenty to talk about. But I think there could be nothing for months, years on end, and we'd be able to put together a 49-minute podcast about the Celtics. So,
yeah. Every time we go into these off-season pods, let's keep it short, half an hour. That's what the people want. And then 55 minutes in, I'm like, come on, guys, we've got to wrap this up. We've still got so much left on the run sheet. So let's see if that happens here again tonight or today here if you're in Australia. But before we get into that, we wanted to let you know what we've got coming up this week / next week. So tomorrow, Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's part one of our Eastern Conference Rival Series. We're looking at what do Cleveland Cavaliers fans think of the Celtics. And joining us for that one is Tony Pester of Fear the Sword. Then next week, we'll get the three of us together, us two and Wayne Spooney, and do another round of Celtics face-off, long overdue, where we choose two Celtics players and pit their one most elite skill against each other. For example, would you rather Porzingis' post-up midi or Derek White's screen navigation? Also next week, yeah, that's right. Also next week, round 2 of our Celtics Trivia Bonanza with Greg and Will from the Green with Envy podcast. And finally, if we have any time left among all of that, we're firing up our playback room for a legacy watch party, game 2 of the 2017 Eastern Conference semifinals. That's Isaiah Thomas scoring 53 points on the Wizards in an overtime victory. Jake, have I missed anything there? That's everything for the next week.
Hey, doesn't stop here at First at the Floor. This is exciting. I cannot wait to watch that 53-point game.
That's going
to be really fun.
Hopefully a nice little crew there joining us. We can all watch and revel in the Isaiah Thomas glory before the whole Kyrie Irving thing went down. A little time capsule there that we're looking forward to.
I just wanted to shout out Tim Preston. He I believe fellow Aussie, just shouting out the Aussie Boomers lineup for the World Cup. 10 NBA players on the Boomers this season.
Is that the second most in the whole World Cup? It's got to be.
I believe so. Yeah,
that's great
by far. So we got some exhibition games next week. I did look at going to Melbourne. It's all very expensive, so I'll be watching it from afar.
Also looked into it. Prohibitively expensive. Will not be going. Maybe in 4 years' time. But yeah, maybe we can fire up the playback room, particularly if we can get Spoody involved for Australia versus USA, if that does happen. We've got to get that going in our room too. All right, let's start with the Porzingis injury tornado, which is what I'm calling it, because it's really been this funnel of information and misinformation and reports going back and forth. We'll start with the initial report, if you want to call it that, by Rupert Fabig, who tweeted out, exclusive, according to my information, there are growing concerns that Latvia star Kristaps Porzingis might miss the FIBA World Cup due to injury. Understood, it is something with his foot, staff, himself, and the Boston Celtics will wait until the last moment to make a decision. Jake, can you just talk us through your mindset, your thoughts as this report, in quotes, if you're not watching on YouTube, emerged?
This was terrible. Off-season, PTSD from Danilo Gallinari and the ACL last season, every Celtics fan has been pretty anti Porzingis playing in this World Cup. We don't need to add this stress to a Boston Celtics team over the past 7 years has had some catastrophic, poorly timed injuries, whether it's Hayward's ankle exploding, Tatum's ankle in Game 7, Kemba's knee turning to dust. The list really goes on over the past 7 years. So to add this after we've been so excited about what Porzingis is going to bring to the team was kind of heart-wrenching, honestly. But I feel like, Ben, you go to some dark places pretty quickly. So I need to know, where did you go?
Just hello darkness, my old friend. Just like it echoes in the chasms of my brain or my skull where my brain should be. It's not functioning in times like this. And you just think, here we go again. And you think back to all the things you mentioned. Like, why can't we have nice things? We deserve something. I feel like... And then, yeah, I guess my brain starts to go with, like, we used it up with Brogdon last year, who stayed healthy right up until where we really needed him most at the end of the season, at the end of the playoffs. But then Latvia denies. The Latvian Basketball Association comes out with we've got the translated tweet here. They say, there has been information that questions the participation of Kristaps Porzingis in the FIBA World Cup. LBS denies this information. Both the players' individual preparation plans and the team's overall training progress are ongoing. The lineup for the match against the Dominican Republic will be announced on August 12th, which is a couple of days from now. So it looks like, I don't know, maybe we're out of the woods here. He's not as injured as originally thought, maybe not injured at all. And Rupert, what was his name? Rupert Fabig, he actually clarified afterwards. He said, understood, it's at least nothing too serious because they are still discussing the option of him playing in the World Cup. So he sort of reneged.
We
reneged a little
reneged,
bit.
but he also doubled down on the idea that everybody was like, you're a fraud, you're not Woj, you're not Shams, whatever. Carl in the chat here did see my tweet where maybe Brad Stevens planted this information in order to try and get Porzingis removed from the World Cup. That can't be ruled out. I mean, Brad's going to, the mastermind. Could be doing anything. Now, we did get... honestly, it felt like Porzingis' camp striking back with propaganda of their own. And I'm going to run the clip here from practice of the Latvian sniper looking good to me, Ben. I don't know. Cutting left, right, corner threes. Because we haven't seen any clips like this at all, really, all offseason. We've seen like very curated black and white, slow motion, Celtics gear clips from Porzingis, but to get a clip like this today of him actually practicing, and then we get him just bombing trailer threes from like 29 feet as well. This made me feel so much better seeing this, and I really appreciate the propaganda strike back because I was concerned.
A gift from the basketball gods, I think, or for the anxious Celtics fan in your life, which is me in my own life. He's not exactly banging down low. Like, it's not like a huge test of, of his physical abilities. But certainly if there was anything keeping him off the court, to see him literally on the court is a really good sign. It did have me scrolling through Porzingis' extensive injury history, and there are several articles that you can scroll through, and it actually gives you his entire career injury timeline.
It's a short list, right?
Several revolutions of the mouse scroll wheel to scroll down through that long list. Lots of knee. There's nothing foot related, only toe. There was one toe injury, which like the toe is its own extremity, right? It's not part of the foot.
Especially when you're talking about feet the size of that. Like, that toe is so far away, like, distance-wise from the rest of the foot. So
it's in another hemisphere. So
may as well be in Latvia, that big toe,
Exactly. So lots of knee, some toe, no foot. No history of foot injuries. And obviously the typical NBA big man and the foot is a tale as old as time as far as injury concerns, but nothing... of that category for Kristaps Porzingis so far. So I guess I was going to say let's speculate wildly. I think we already have. Like, is there an ideal outcome for you here, Jake? Like, you mentioned Brad Stevens propaganda on both sides. Is there some way we can finagle our way into Porzingis, like, being with the Latvian team for the vibes, but, like, ultimately sitting out because his NBA career is a little bit more important?
I know, we did talk about this in the Slack. It's like, okay, well, if he doesn't play, it's a good thing because then he's well rested. But then that means if he doesn't play, does that mean he's actually injured?
Yes.
Injured enough where he couldn't play. So him playing is actually a good thing because that means he's healthy enough to play. I think the best case scenario is he plays, but they get knocked out in the pool stages. And that's it. So I think we get like 3 games. It's still scary because that's just... We're going to be terrified that's just how it's going to be. But if we can just get 3 games to only 10-minute quarters,
Yep.
hopefully they get blown out or they blow someone else out. We can get those minutes down. But I do think if we're looking at utopic options here, then Porzingis playing 3 games, him looking awesome, but them being terrible around him and them losing and getting knocked out. So we have like these highlights to look at from the World Cup. He looks great, no injury issues. And then we're like, let's go. Not injured. These toes, these feet, these knees are looking great.
Absolutely, yes. That sounds like the best case scenario. I was going to some dark places in my mind as you were saying that, like maybe a stomach bug. It keeps him out, doesn't affect him physically, but I don't want to wish that on anybody. So yeah, some Porzingis highlights, but ultimately protected, brought home in a cocoon to Boston, and healthy going into the season.
This is good from Dave in the chat here. Like maybe Brad needs to offer a bribe to the Latvian coach, maybe some of the other players that aren't on the $36 million that Porzingis is. Just turn the ball over. Just miss your shots. Just point shave just a little bit.
I'll crowdfund that. Now look, sticking with the injury situation, Oshae Brissett has been ruled out of the FIBA World Cup as a precaution as he deals with a knee injury. So there has been no official word on the severity or the specifics of his knee ailment, but in 2019, he missed the last FIBA World Cup with a knee injury. And the following year, Brissett left the bubble to have a minor knee procedure to remove loose bodies. But he's since avoided knee injuries since 2020. Loose bodies is how I would describe my current physical appearance, Jake, by the way. So are you concerned? Is this kind of what you want to see? Like the slightest sign of sorry, it's not what you want to see. Obviously you want to see the guy healthy, but at the slightest sign of some sort of knee ailment and knowing that he's got an NBA year coming up and kind of an important one, right? He signed a minimum deal. He's probably trying to play his way back, obviously for the perspective of team success, but increasing his own individual value as well. There's a knee issue, shut it down. Let's get him healthy for the NBA season. Am I just like talking myself into a healthy Brissett season here, Jake, or is there something to that?
I'm really proud of you, Ben, for taking the optimist view on this one. Because a pessimist could be like, we've already got reports of 2 Celtics players with injuries before the season has already started. But I think, if Brissett doesn't play a single minute because his knees don't work, I think the Celtics will still be okay. So this isn't the worst thing in the world. I was still excited to watch him play in the World Cup, but this is the biggest difference between regular season and off season and these international camps and basketball. Is it like we don't get the minute to minute updates on these injuries? We don't get the Oshae Brissett is getting an MRI at 3:01 p.m. tomorrow afternoon at the Celtics facility. We're going to get a tweet from Woj at like 3:09 saying that Rob Williams is either going to get the meniscus surgery where it's like he's out for 6 months or he's going to be out for 3 weeks. International stuff, we get like, he's got a knee injury and then it's a precaution. That could literally mean it's actually bad, or it could be nothing. So it's really hard to say. The difference between this one and the Zinger is we need Oshae Brissett to release an Instagram live like mixtape. Like he needs to go live and play some one-on-one. Like he's still at the Canadian camp maybe, and Jamal Murray's going to get some one-on-one practice in afterwards, and Brissett can be the guy. He's not ready for full game time, but he's ready to do something like that. Mm-hmm. I would encourage him to release something of that nature.
Yeah, so if you're listening, Oshae, the encouragement that Jake is sending you, I'm getting behind that as well. We need to see something. Maybe some Euro stepping, some proven agility on both legs individually would be nice. But just signs of life from the knee there would be great to see. All right, let's move on. Anthony Davis has signed a contract extension, 3-year, $186 million max contract extension, tying him to the Lakers through 2028 and through age 35 for a total of $270 million. Why is this important to the Celtics? Because he now usurps Jaylen Brown as the, per year, most lucrative contract. $270 million. That's not Jaylen's $305 million, but the annual contract extension average salary for AD will be $62 million per season, whereas Jaylen's averages out at $60.8 million per season. What are your thoughts on this? It's a different situation, Jake, in that AD is much older. He's much more injury prone. The future, immediate and long-term future of the Lakers is a little bit less certain, with LeBron being just crazy fucking old at this point. So how do you feel about this, and especially as it compares to the Jaylen Brown situation and all the flack that the Celtics and Jaylen Brown got compared to what's happening now with AD?
Yeah. I think you could argue that it's a lot for AD as well as Jaylen, but I think the situation is similar in that the Lakers are trying to win a title next year. The year after, I don't know when LeBron's really... I don't think a cliff ever comes for him. He's just in this slow decline. Mm-hmm. But you have to pay AD to lock up this little title window. And then I think thinking about the longevity of these contracts, I think it's interesting to compare and contrast. Like AD, I think in a vacuum, it's pretty clearly a better player than Jaylen Brown at this moment. I think, it's him, Draymond Green, Jaren Jackson, and Bam is like the clear-cut best defenders in the NBA. Offensively, he can be quite dominant. But at the same time, like Anthony Davis is not a clear-cut number one guy and a title contender. I know you could kind of make the argument that when they won the title in the bubble that AD was as good as LeBron, and I think that's fair, but his role when you're playing with LeBron, I don't think if you put AD in a different kind of context, even in 2020 as a number one, he's able to win a title unless he has a number two that's like literally LeBron was like a front runner for MVP before the COVID season got shut down. So Jaylen in that same regard, is not a number one on a clear cut number one guy on a title team. So I think both of these guys are overpaid because realistically, there's 5 to 7 guys that are actually worth this Supermax contract, and I don't think AD or Jaylen really technically fit into this. But this is how the NBA goes. It's just the next guy that's up for the next contract is going to be the richest one because it's just, for whatever reason, no one can negotiate down from max. It's either I'm forcing a trade or leaving in free agency, or you give me every last dollar. I don't know how that works, but that is the reality of these contract negotiations. But everybody should feel, I think, in my opinion, better about the future of the Jaylen contract, the value of it, the ability to trade it, all of that. You're on mute. You're on mute, Ben.
Apologies. 100% I feel better about the Jaylen Brown contract situation in contrast to the AD one. And I feel like this AD contract situation, it kind of cushions some of the criticisms that we've heard about the JB situation because, the tagline there for the JB situation was like, this is just currently the most lucrative contract extension. It's going to be usurped in the near future. And I think a lot of us thought, okay, a year or two from now. And it happened almost immediately. And AD has, at this point in his career, I think just as many detractors as Jaylen Brown as far as the risks in locking him up for this much money, this long term. All of them you've already mentioned, Jake, so I'm not going to repeat them. So I feel like it does, yes, kind of cushion the criticism going at the Celtics and, obviously the fan base. We read all that. We get anxiety from reading it, so it's a good thing in that sense.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
When the 2028 playoffs start, which will be the last year of these current contracts, it's very possible that both of these players have signed extensions again. But at this point, the end of the 2028 or beginning of the 2028 playoffs, Jaylen Brown will be 32 years old and Anthony Davis will be 36 years old. I think it's very possible that in the first years of these extensions, that technically, AD's the better player and worth the $60 million more than Jaylen's worth the $60 million. But at age 32, Jaylen Brown versus age 36, Anthony Davis, like that, that's a proposition that I think, you could easily make the argument that Jaylen Brown's going to be the more effective player at that time.
Oh, easily. You could make the argument that AD might be, just based on what we've seen physically from him throughout his career, bordering on out of the league. I don't want to come across as too critical, but his body, is it not already breaking down? Has it not already been breaking down for years now? Can he really play at a high level? At the very least, he's probably coming off the bench in some sort of role player-ish capacity at age 36. And I know we're making a lot of advances with sports medicine and treatment and things like that, but just the trajectory that Anthony Davis is on, it's tough to see him being a really solid contributor at age 36.
Yeah, I think not all 36-year-olds are created equal. I'm sure you can attest to this, Ben.
Oh,
but
yes.
but there are the LeBron Jameses of the world. There are the Al Horfords of the world that have been very healthy for their entire careers, and have been able to maintain a level that we haven't really seen before, thanks to some of that those advances in modern medicine. Or you kind of see like Chris Paul, and he just like gets injured every time he gets to the playoffs. So as he gets older, and there's just going to be different bodies. And AD historically, I'm intrigued to now go back and look at AD's injury history and see how many mouse rotations it is versus Porzingis's, because I think there's a lot of detractors on the Celtics this season will be like, oh, Porzingis is so injury prone, but I think if I went to go back and look at the last 3 seasons of games played, I think it would be very close with Anthony Davis, if not giving Porzingis the lead there. So I would be concerned about paying someone $65 million at age 36 that can't stay on the court.
And no question, looking at both players' ceilings. So now looking at Porzingis and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is a skyscraper ceiling-wise compared to Porzingis, in my opinion. But looking at the average annual salary, Porzingis is essentially being paid half of what Anthony Davis has been extended for. And as far as you attach the risks that both players carry with them to that, I'm feeling a lot better about the Celtics' books compared to that of the Lakers, which, I don't know, maybe we should have tied this into the Schadenfreude report.
Yeah, maybe.
Which, it's too early. It could be a great thing for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Who knows?
No,
but I'm certainly hoping that it isn't.
I don't think it matters to them. I think this is just you have to sign Anthony Davis. We have this LeBron AD duo playing at a very high level for at least, I think LeBron's a free agent after this season. So at least this season. And then they have this AD player, marquee, attract another star. Can you trade AD? It was a no-brainer. They kind of had to do it, but let us not forget that the Lakers were wandering through the desert for a decade there. So fingers crossed, we're there in not too long.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a quick moment to hear from our sponsor.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed.
Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long, because right now you can bet on a Super Bowl winner and you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. Now, Jake, we had Green with Envy. Those guys are coming on next week. We had Green Runs Deep on last week talking Celtics, and we asked him who he thought the Super Bowl winner would be. He said the New York Jets, and then I heard Bill Simmons talking in a similar vein. And, you start to have those intrusive thoughts. Does Bill Simmons listen to the podcast? Obviously, he does not. But he also mentioned the New York Jets as potential Super Bowl winners. You've had some time to digest Green Runs Deep thoughts there on that. Have you wavered at all?
Ben, I know you're not an NFL guy, so
I'm not.
I think you may have misinterpreted Bill's segment, because Bill was saying the opposite of
okay.
the Jets.
Definitely misinterpreted. Yes.
Yeah, I do not see the Jets thing at all. But I'm ramping up all my football research. August is kind of the month for that. There's this little window before the NBA season starts where I really get into my football, and September's kind of where I really dive into it. But then basketball starts and it just fades as the season goes along. I still the Patriots to win the AFC East at plus 750. But I've made money on betting on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl since Patty Mahomes has come into the league pretty much. You can just bet them to win the Super Bowl, and then you can hedge in the AFC title game, because they're guaranteed to make it unless he explodes. But he's already proven he can play through like catastrophic injuries and still win the Super Bowl like he did last year. So I would just bet on the Chiefs. It's like plus 700, I think. It's just easy money. You can hedge it at worst and break even. So
yeah. And the FanDuel like offer of winning bonus bets on all of their regular season wins is
that's the
really
thing.
spicy. Like you make a long-term bet and you get sort of short-term gains in the meantime. So that's fun.
That's why you bet on the Chiefs, because they're going to win all these games. You're going to get bonus bets, and they're probably going to win the Super Bowl. So kind of a no-brainer. Them and the Eagles, I would just put 2 bets on them, get your bonus bets, and then you can just use the bonus bets on the other Super Bowl contenders if you want, and just get crazy.
Absolutely.
So responsibly crazy. Obviously.
Responsibly, crazily, and obviously responsibly needs to be the lead word there. Now, we talked about JB a second ago through the lens of the AD contract extension. JB's been busy this offseason, and recently he flew east to Japan, not far north of Australia. JB, if you're listening, short flight down here to Sydney or Tasmania if you want to jump on the pod. But there is a clip of JB picking up a new hobby. This could be loud. We're going to play the clip now, and we're going to talk about it. This is Jaylen Brown drifting, I guess Tokyo drifting. I don't know of its proximity to the city of Tokyo, somewhere in Japan. Notably not going left, which was, not my original thought. It's all over the internet. This is the off-season, Jake. This is where we have to spend time talking about content like this. So just your immediate thoughts, reactions, anything on this.
Dude.
Give us 2 minutes.
You can't tell me that you didn't feel the same way as me, where I've seen the video already before, and I was still nervous watching that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's nothing to crash into. He's fine.
There is something to crash. There's a metal like barrier, like kind of over there. Okay, I'm not a motorsports enthusiast by any means. We are using the F1 qualifying to determine our fantasy football draft order.
Amazing.
But other than that, all I know is that I have Ferrari as my team. That's all I know. So I have no idea how difficult, how easy drifting. We call them donuts in Australia, doing doughies. I have no concept of how difficult doing doughies actually is. So like, was there an hour training course? Is this the 3rd day of the training course? Was this, a super easy maneuver that would have been very difficult to fuck up? But also, this dude sliced his hand open watering his plants, allegedly. Do we need to do this?
He probably had a roll cage in the car. I don't know. I couldn't tell from watching the video.
No.
But, I've never done doughies either. I don't know of the inherent risks in doing doughies. Doing doughies outside of Lidcombe Station was a big part of popular culture growing up here in Sydney. But it seems like in a controlled environment there, he seems fine. So those of you listening who live in Boston, if you hear someone doing doughies in your neighborhood, there's a very good chance that it could be Jaylen Brown. So go and say hi and ask him to come on the podcast.
I would like to request less drifting. Like that's at least don't post it for me, just for me. Take me off the close friends list, Jaylen. Like
just from a fan anxiety perspective, you just can't cope with that.
And also, just you're bringing this on yourself, Dave D in the chat. If Jaylen can hurt himself gardening, allegedly, I'm still not sure I buy it. The fact that he sliced his hand open that badly, but if that is true, do we need to, Naheem Hines in the NFL is out for the season because of a jet skiing accident. So let's not tempt the gods.
Where do you draw the line though, Jake? Like Tatum. On his Instagram, he's playing golf basically every single day. Huge muscle pull potential. You're swinging, repetitive swing every time. You could do a lat muscle strain, a back strain, lower back, put yourself out. If not for the beginning of the season, at least for the ramp up, the training and everything. Like, where do you draw the line?
I definitely draw the line somewhere between playing golf and drifting.
Fair enough.
Like if Michael Jordan can play 36 holes in a day, our guy Tatum can handle a few rounds. It's Steph Curry's playing every day. I think the golf part's fine. I think we draw the line at gardening. That was probably where that's where the line is, and I'm pretty sure drifting's past the gardening line, personally.
Yeah, that said, Jaylen or anyone else on the Celtics, if you are presented with broken glass on the floor, just pause, back away slowly. Surely someone else can take care of that for you. Yeah, call us.
We'll come.
I'll fly
We'll do
in.
it.
Absolutely.
Don't need my hands at all.
Dustpan and broom, right? Like hands.
What
are
are we
not
doing,
required.
dude?
Yeah. All right. Lineups that we're excited for the 2023-2024 season. We can have a little bit of fun with this, Jake, before we wrap up. Obviously, the starting lineup, right? Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Rob Williams, Kristaps Porzingis. First of all, is that the guaranteed starting lineup?
It's not the guaranteed starting lineup. I don't think we know. It could be Rob. It could be Al. It has to be Porzingis, would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't know, which is kind of an embarrassment of riches. Like the ability to bring one of Rob or Horford off the bench is awesome. I would like to see, I think, Rob in the starting lineup. I would like to see Rob play more minutes with Derek and Tatum more so than Malcolm, just because Malcolm refuses to hit Rob on the lob. So just give Brogdon the outlets, because I feel like Brogdon will drive in, and then if he doesn't see stuff, he kicks to like shooters far more than he does to interior presence. So that would be my pick for the starting lineup. What do you put Rob here? So I feel like you're leaning the same way.
Yeah, I just think Rob back in that, defensively speaking, power forward / roaming role, and just kind of complements. Like Zinga's really good in drop, right? But it's not like he's really good laterally. Laterally. I thought there was something there. I mean, you have been posting some really good footage of him on your Twitter. Go and follow Jake at Jake Eisenberg on Twitter for more of that. He's had some good Tatum stuff lately as well. But I just think that Rob defensively kind of is a safety net. And I'm not saying anything new there, but Derek White, having made all D second team, does get targeted occasionally defensively. Jaylen Brown, sometimes will fall asleep and get backdoor cut and things like that. And to have Rob Williams as a safety net, as a backup, with a full off-season of ramp-ups and workouts and recovery and things like that, I think just chucking Rob Williams in there as like the defensive leader for the rest of that starting lineup, that's the lineup that I'm most excited about. Now, you might say the most likely starting lineup is not, it's not a hot take to be excited by that, but I really like the defensive chemistry of that lineup. And then offensively, obviously Rob impacts the spacing, but you unleash his passing, his high post sort of court vision, and the shooters that are sort of operating around him in that capacity. I think there's some really good things that you can, opportunities offensively that you can generate out of that too. So I'm really excited for that. But let's run down here and let's get deeper.
I want to trade lineups here. You got the first pick?
Yeah, let's go.
This is my Helio Tatum lineup, and I think actually flows quite well off Al Horford coming off the bench here. So it's Tatum, it's Brogdon off the bench, it's Hauser off the bench, it's Al off the bench, and KP stays in. So it's Tatum, Brogdon, Hauser, Al, KP, which means Tatum's running point, and he's running pick and roll and pick and pops with KP and Al, and he's surrounded by Brogdon, who led the league in shooting last year, well basically tied with Al Horford. Hauser, who's never had a season in his life, going back to 4 years of college. He's 3 years in the G League / NBA of shooting above 40%. And then Porzingis. Of those shooters, Porzingis was the worst of them last season at 39.5%, which is absurd. And so to surround Tatum with that level of shooting, and I think defensively, you're still that's still going to be one of the better defensive lineups in the NBA from a regular season perspective, especially. Very excited because we're going to need to see more Tatum playmaking responsibility, and to surround him with that level of shooting to create that level of spacing, I think could be just glorious. I feel like him and Hauser early last season had an incredible connection, which I felt like kind of waned as the season went on. I would like to get those two on the court together.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We are going to need to lean on other personnel's playmaking skill set with Smart out the door, and I think Tatum is probably second in line, possibly even first in line. Derek White obviously being the starting point guard, and like you said earlier, Malcolm Brogdon just having the blinders on when it comes to finding guys like Robert Williams. So I think that's a really good one. My second lineup choice, the third overall pick, if you will, is really it's a reaction to the first lineup, the starting lineup. So that starting lineup with Rob at the 4, it's not necessarily suitable against a lot of teams where you kind of need, and this is like the way that the NBA is going or has gone really, you kind of need a wingish stretch 4. So I put to you this: Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Hauser at the 3, elite 3-point specialist with passable defense. Tatum at the 4, who has demonstrated himself to be an incredible rebounder and was great in that Roma role in lieu of Rob Williams last year when he was out injured to begin the season. And then Porzingis, who's our starting 5, great shooter, can attack a zone. We've studied that already, but I think that is my second favorite potential lineup.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And I think going through this exercise, you realize how many lineups you do tend to enjoy. And they often have both Jaylen Brown and Jason
I was going to
Tatum
say, probably maybe if we do an extension of this at some point throughout the rest of the offseason, we need to look at some non-Tatum lineups, because I haven't done this here, and he's going to need some rest.
Yes, agreed. Well, in that case, the last lineup, the Helio Tatum lineup, when I was doing this, I completely forgot about Brogdon until towards the end, and I was like, okay, because that Helio Tatum lineup, I originally had Jalen in there, but I'm like, okay, let's put Brogdon in there, better shooter, and also just actually might be a good example and a good reflection of what Tatum and the bench lineups can look like, and without Jalen. But now a non-Tatum lineup, I call this the pace lineup, getting up and down the court. So we got Derek, PP, Jalen, Oshae. When watching a lot of his clips, he's really good at getting up and down the court. And then Rob or KP here. I think Rob is the best at getting the most athletic of the Porzingis Horford Rob combo as far as getting up and down the court. He would win a race, but I think if you have Porzingis in this spot and everybody's racing up and down the court, and you have Porzingis trailing for 3, clearly it's watching Porzingis, he loves trail 3s. Even in the practice clip we watched earlier, it's something he practices, kind of walking over half court and taking these 30-footers. If you've got Pritchard, Derek, Oshae, Jalen putting pressure on the rim, getting out in the break, Pritchard spraying to the wing in the corner, and then Porzingis with the trail 3. I really like this speed lineup.
Yeah, that's really cool. The pace and space speed lineup. That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm particularly interested to see how Oshae Brissett factors into that, because I feel like the other members of that lineup that you mentioned are all home runs, and can Oshae be passable enough on offense that he can be put out there for defensive purposes, but not just be a total bed shitter offensively, where it just kills everything on the offensive side, where the other team can just help off of him entirely. He becomes a zero factor, and it kind of leads to our offense breaking down.
Well, so I think totally fair, and that is that goes in the playoff concern bucket. And Oshae, to me, unless he has a really good season, is not someone I expect to play in the playoffs. Really, this is a regular season lineup. We're playing the Rockets game that we lost. If you remember, Tatum looked like he had a concussion. Jalen had one of his better games of the season, trying to keep the Celtics in this game, and we were screaming. Everybody's screaming at the TV to run, please move. And I think having a lineup, so a guy like Brissett who plays with energy on a regular season basis, night to night. You're playing the Wizards on a Wednesday. You just need someone who's going to come in and get up and down the court. Regular season, I like this lineup. And from a spacing perspective, let's say it's KP, Derek, PP, Jalen, and Porzingis, and Oshae is the only non-shooter. He still shoots over 30% from 3. I think in the regular season, that's just not really an issue. So I think, and defensively, I still think it's fine.
Yeah, we've got some comments flowing in here. Dave D says, I like Sam Hauser in there for closing only because without Sam off the bench, we are wingless. Absolutely. And then Michael Spitzer says, we finally have a chance for a non-Jays lineup. He's calling this the Bombers. Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, Sam Hauser, Kristaps Porzingis, and Al Horford. All just like, you can just play five out. Just amazing three-point opportunities. Defensively, it doesn't matter because 3 is more than 2, and you're just hitting threes on every possession. So put Peyton Pritchard in there as well, potentially, and you got yourself a bomber lineup.
Well, yeah, this is the Helio Tatum lineup, where you've put Derek White in there for Tatum, and I think that that lineup works really well as well, which is exciting. Like to be able to even think about a non-J lineup. We'll see if we go to that.
All right, my next pick. This is the all-defense lineup, not very creatively named. Derek White, who, like I said, all-defense, second team. Jaylen Brown or Delano Banton instead of Jaylen Brown, the 6'9" guard who maybe doesn't fall asleep on defense at times. We don't really know his tendencies that well yet, having not seen him suit up outside of the Summer League. Jason Tatum, of course. Rob Williams, Horford, and Zinger. Which is 5 people, right? Yeah, it is. I just sort of combined Jaylen Brown and Delano Banton.
2, that's true.
Yeah.
3. Oh, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Rob, Horford, Zinger. That is 6.
That is 6. Well, I mean, put 6 players on the court. I mean, no one's going to score on you. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I think Horford and Zinger are interchangeable. I think in your all defensive lineup, and a lot of that will be based on how Horford looks in the season and also at what point of the season we're in. Playoff Horford, if he's had limited minutes throughout the entire regular season, he's rested, he's moving well, like at least as well as we've seen him move this year. I'd probably favor Horford over Zinger defensively in a playoff game as sort of that playoff lineup of death kind of lineup. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I have a question on the death lineup for you later. But yeah, I think for me, visualizing the defense is more difficult than the offense. I think the offensively for this team, and that was kind of the whole point of the Porzingis move, was to really juice the offense because that's been the Achilles heel of this team in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. That's really easy to envision because he's so versatile. You can do everything. Mm-hmm. Defensively, there's obviously you've got these 3 bigs. You can't play them all together. I think if you were gonna rank your top 5 players or top 6 players, you're gonna have Porzingis, Rob, and Al in there, right? I guess it's Jaylen, Jason, Derek, Porzingis, Rob, Al as probably your best 6 guys. And obviously, even though you tried, we can't actually play all of them at the same time.
You don't envision a zone for a couple of possessions where it's Rob, Al, and Porzingis on the back line?
I would love to see it. I would love to see it because obviously you could still have the spacing offensively. And then I guess you have any of Derek, Jaylen, or Jason as at the top of the zone. I know Brad Stevens mentioned it in his interview after the draft. I would like to see it. Maybe we'll see it in preseason, just to see it. I don't know. Why not?
Well, I'll tell you why not. I think it's too much injury risk at once with those 3 guys all on the court. If there's some sort of cataclysmic event on the court that it's some sort of boulder player, Lou Dort just tumbles into the paint and takes out all their legs at once, then what do you do? So I think it's too much risk bundled into one moment on the court.
I agree. That's a good point. We cannot tempt the gods when it comes to
oh shit,
Landon's just coming out hot. Jake's apparently dominating the lineup battle. I don't know about that.
I got a couple more lineups, but let's
we're not done yet. So this is purely called the Walshy lineup, and it's Derek, Jaylen at the 2, Walshy, Jason Tatum, and then take your pick of the big 3 of the 3 bigs or the big 3. Wow. But man, Ben, there's just great content coming in this season. I just realized with this 3-headed monster. What up, Landon? Appreciate you coming by. It's hard for me, for me to not put KP similar to Tatum in a lot of these spots, just because I think he's the best player. Which is not, I don't think a very hot take, but Derek, Jaylen, Walshy, Jason, and then I would have either KP or Al, just because I think similar to Oshae Brissett. Even though Walsh shot 38% in the Summer League, we will see if that is real or not. I think you have to put either Al or Porzingis on the court at the same time. But I would love to see Walsh get to be surrounded by like all that talent, and he can just like really just exert all of his chaotic energy, all of his Marcus Smart energy onto the game. I think would be the best way to get him in there.
Yeah, and fail fast and hard without it being like too much of an issue because of all the talent he's got around him. Like, you know, it was great one-on-one defensively. Obviously, he had some great defensive moments in the Summer League, and that's why we drafted him. Like, he's going to have some defensive bed-shitting moments this season. Like, it's going to happen because he's so raw.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't have Jordan Walsh in any of my preferred lineups. As much I love Walshy, I'm team Walshy, baby.
Yeah.
Give me the Walshy t-shirt, the pajamas. I'll wear them all day. But he's not in any of my lineups because he's going to be under the bench / G League.
Okay, well, we don't know. Who knows? We could have a cataclysmic event, and all of a sudden, Jordan Walsh.
Oh God.
Right. But no, this was lineups you're excited for. I believe it says right here, and I'm excited for every single second of Jordan Walsh. I mean, he's not on a two-way. He has his full NBA contract. Oshae Brissett now has this knee thing. Who knows? Is he next in line after Sam Hauser? Which means I think that there's, Malcolm Brogdon, is he ready for the season? Who knows? All
right, next lineup. This is the, we've heard the I'm a make 'em both situation with Grant Williams. This is the I'm a make 'em all lineup of Peyton Pritchard, Malcolm Brogdon, who did he end the season leading the league in 3-point shooting? I think he did. Or close.
It was like him, Horford, and Kennard were like battling for the top 3 spots.
There you go. So Pritchard, Brogdon, Hauser, Horford, Zinger. This is very similar to one of your earlier lineups. It's just like it's the gunner lineup, the bomber lineup, as Michael Spitzer had before. Just like 5 elite shooters. The spacing and the attention that they draw because of their shooting prowess only further opens up the person next to them, and so on and so forth. So, are we going to regularly see lineups like this? Perhaps, when both Jays are on the bench, and you would hope the rotations are such that we've kind of got either Jay out there at least at every given moment. But injuries do happen. There are situations where neither Jay can be on the court. And this offensively works fantastically. And defensively, I think it gives you enough to get through a few possessions, a few, stints of the game safely.
Oh, yeah. I think, this is another fun regular season lineup for sure. Like, I was listening to the Greatest of All Talk pod last night, and Ben Golliver's like in the midst of Team USA camp, and he was recapping the Team USA like select team scrimmage where they beat the Team USA, and he had a little nugget in there about, Peyton Pritchard was like bombing away from 3 at one point, and look,
so good.
It's just on the Pritchard, like it's so wild that he's like at the team, like USA select team, but like this is what he does. We've seen it. He can, when he gets going from 3, like he's got range. He's willing. He'll get up, 5, 6, 7 threes in 20 minutes or less playing time, and he can easily make 5 of them. So, yeah, this lineup has serious firepower.
I've got one more, but you are next in the draft. Do you have any more lineups?
No, well, no. I don't actually have any more lined up here, but I have a question for you. But you go to your next lineup, and we'll go from there.
Let me just rattle off this very unserious lineup called the first to the floor, balls to the wall, chaos lineup. It's Pritchard, who... Like, if you think about chaos and balls to the wall, it's more defensively. Like, Pritchard is a bit of a gun defensively, like decent screen navigation. He obviously gets caught up sometimes. Really good offensive rebounder for his size. Like, he's the spearhead of this lineup because of just the attitude that he brings to the court, despite his size. So Pritchard, Delano Banton, Walshy, Oshae Brissett, and then in brackets, Blake. Because, like, he would be the backbone. I mentioned Pritchard as the spearhead. Blake Griffin, if we do re-sign him in free agency, would be the backbone of such a lineup. We saw Blake Griffin literally sliding off the court, out of bounds, first to the floor, grabbing the ball, despite his age, his injury history, the fact that if he had one more injury, it could be it for him and end his career. Blake Griffin just diving all over the floor. This balls to the wall lineup is something that we might see in like the last few games of the regular season, where we need to rest our starters, and we get these really fun games of, like we saw it last year, Peyton Pritchard, last game of the season, triple-double. This is the kind of lineup that we need to, fans deserve to be able to invest in and get behind at certain junctures of the season. So balls to the ball lineup.
This is beautiful. This is like, reminds me of the Celtics played the Nets, and the Celtics won. Tatum had like a big fourth quarter on KD, and they flew to Toronto for the back-to-back. And Pritchard's out there, Blake's out there, and they had this gritty win. This is a lot though of banter. Walshy, this is either like everybody's resting or we're winning by 20 or losing by 20 in the last 5 minutes lineup. But like I think we'll probably see this lineup at some point just because of like the end of games. I do like how you've noted here that it's 2K for Time Lord. We can't again tempt the
on the run sheet. Yeah.
we
can't put him out there for that.
No, that's
those days are behind him.
No. I love it. Banton. Yeah, look, a lot of chaos. Chaos is the perfect word for this lineup. Yeah. Maybe a little light on shooting. I wish
Oh yeah, very light on shooting, but that's part of the chaos, baby.
I love it. All right, question for you before we move on from the lineups. What do you think will end up being like either our best, our death lineup? Because like in 2022 when we made the finals, it was Marcus, Jaylen, Jason, Rob, Al, that double bigs, that defensive like historic lineup that just dominated teams from like January on. I don't think we really found a lineup like that last season. Like the Celtics were just like really good across the board last season. They were fluttering 1, 2, 3 in offense all season. They were the second in the league in defense, but it was a big drop off from the year previous. Like, what do you think is going to be like the death lineup?
So I'll preface my answer with calling out that there wasn't a lot of Brogdon in all of our dream lineups in this segment so far. It was mentioned once or twice, but didn't play a key role really in any of our lineup choices. No. So I think the death lineup is going to be Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and if healthy, and if he has gelled well with the team to that point, Porzingis. I think that's just your 5 most elite players, and that's what a death lineup is. I think Horford, he's going to be more of a situational player this year. Rob can play himself into being a part of that death lineup, but like as things stand right now, compared to the rest of the roster, I don't think he belongs on that death lineup. So that's what it is for me. Luke Cornett, we're seeing some Cornett comments here. Cornett's not going to make the death lineup. And, he's the 15th man. He doesn't... We love Cornett, but we love him for who he is, not necessarily what he is, if that makes sense.
Yes, no question.
So, to get back to the death lineup stuff, so Derek, Brogdon, the Jays, and Porzingis.
Yes, I think, like, the actualized version of this team, like, has to have Porzingis in there. Like, if this team reaches its absolute ceiling, it's with Porzingis in the lineup. Obviously Jaylen, obviously Jason, and I think Derek. Derek, Jaylen, Jason, Porzingis. I think in the best case scenario, those 4 guys are pretty much a lock to being like this death lineup. And then that last spot is where we're going to find out. Now, Brogdon, I think, is a totally fair option. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I'm hoping this might be wish casting. Could it be Sam Hauser?
Oh.
Could it be Sam Hauser? Maybe not like the closing lineup in a playoff game, but there's this lineup you go to in like the middle of the third quarter, Warriors-esque, where the games just get absolutely broken open. Where why is Brogdon out there in that death lineup? He can play a little bit of defense. He's obviously an elite shooter. I think Hauser can definitely match him as far as a shooting perspective goes. Was Brogdon a markedly better defender than Sam Hauser last season?
I mean, I'd have to look at the numbers.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like there was a lot to be desired from Brogdon's defense last season relative to the rest of the team. So I think that like you add Hauser, who's 6'8", better rebounder. I think as equally good at shooting. So all of a sudden it's like this
bigger
elite
body.
shooting team. So it's a kind of a giant team where the shortest player is Derek White at like 6'4", 6'5", and it's Jalen 6'7", Hauser 6'8", Tatum 6'9", and then the Zing Dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sub anyone out for Malcolm Brogdon in favor of elite shooting, given where he finished league-wide in shooting last year. But yeah, crunch time, like put defense aside, like just crunch time execution on either end was clearly not a strong suit for Malcolm Brogdon for the majority of last year, particularly in the playoffs.
One of the worst turnovers we've ever seen, where he threw the pick six to Maxey in game 1 of the Sixers series to pretty much seal that loss. Yep.
And if we lost that series, maybe this is a hot take, maybe it isn't, but like Brogdon is long gone from this team already. So like he was kind of saved by Tatum's 50 and and also that epic end to game 6 as well. Yeah, this is interesting.
What about who's the better cutter? Because I don't think in this lineup,
it's
Derek and Tatum are going to be your primary and secondary ball handlers, depending on which way you order them. So there's that's just tertiary ball handling at that point. So do I want the guy who's better at cutting as well?
It's okay. So death lineups, like first of all, situationally, your death lineup comes in to close a game, right?
Yeah.
And
maybe.
so I'm just circling back in my mind. So crunch time, Brogdon, not a strong suit. Hauser, like kind of unproven, right? Like he hasn't really been tested in those moments. So I think you've still got to go to Brogdon because I have to believe, Jake, it's the only way I can sleep at night that it's an adjustment, an amendment that Brogdon will make to his game and his approach going into his second year with the Celtics. Kind of knows the situation a little bit better, knows the team, there's more chemistry. Yes, there's a relationship issue in that we almost traded him away, but he's back. The dust will have settled by the time we start training camp. Like, he is kind of an elite player in a lot of facets. I think you've got to include him in the death lineup over Sam Hauser. I understand the approach. I want it to be Hauser. I hope that he gets to that point. I just don't think, like... Also, sorry, these thoughts are all coming to me at once.
No, please.
You can't put Brogdon on the bench in favor of Hauser. Like, just look at the salary, look at the apparent role for each player. Brogdon's going to be shitting his pants with fury on the bench if you put in Sam Hauser in his stead.
Okay. All great points. I agree with pretty much all of them. How about this? If Game 7 of the finals is tomorrow, then your lineup that's the lineup. Mm-hmm. But are you open to the idea that by the time we get to April, that Sam Hauser, as the first wing off the bench, has played well enough to where it's like he just gels better with some of the other guys and his defense is like good enough to compare with Brogdon and some of those other things. So like today, to start the season, it's Brogdon almost certainly. But do we get to a point in the playoffs where it's just like undeniable that like this lineup has just been wiping teams off the floor? That is possible.
I would donate organs to that idea to keep it alive and thriving. I love that idea so much. I want that to be the case, like, because also just, it's a buy low, not that we did sell high on Hauser, but to sign him at what we've signed Hauser for and to see him grow to that level and capacity would be so satisfying. And then suddenly you've got a lot more maneuverability with Brogdon's contract and moving that piece because you don't need to be paying someone whose role has diminished that much money. So it opens up so many possibilities. So I would love to see Sam Hauser evolve to that level. And in the meantime, it's a luxury that we can put someone like Brogdon in that death lineup instead. So I feel like we've reached a happy place there.
Of course. And then like, who knows? It could involve either Rob or Al in that lineup as well. So that's like, there's a lot of good options. I think doing this exercise, I was like, there's a lot of good players and a lot of cool options to float in here.
Yeah, I want to go get a drink and do it again. This is a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again with Spoonie at some point between now and when the season starts. All right, let's leave it there. That is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, to begin the pod, We've got so much coming up in the next week, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and or the podcast to keep up with all of that. We'll be back tomorrow for part 1 of our Eastern Conference Rivals Series at 8 p.m., talking about the Cavs and how they perceive the Celtics and their fans. Jake, love your work. Until next time, go Celtics.